Okay, just done a great session on the treadmill. It's hot in there. It's hot out here. It's 45 degrees at the moment in Dubai. Right now where I am in the shadow and shade, it's probably 35. In there on the treadmill, 31, 32 degrees Celsius. So it's always been my go-to, or has been at least since I moved to Spain 10 years ago. It's always been my go-to heat training. And I always feel like if I can train well and you have to adapt the paces and the effort levels, but if I can train well in 30 to 35 degrees, and through the summer, once I get to those races, even if it's a race in Spain, I'm training sort of midday. So if I'm training, if I'm then racing at 8, 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, it's that much cooler. It's 20, 25 degrees in the south of Spain, in Granada. If I go to the UK and race in the autumn, if I do a marathon in the autumn and do something at usually between 10 degrees and 18 degrees, it feels so easy for me for the majority of the race, like until that point when you kind of, a really good phrase for that marathon is you want to feel like the first half you've got the handbrake on. And then you can kind of let go a little bit, but not too much for that next kind of between a halfway and maybe 4 to 6 miles to go. You want to be cautious, but you want to start pushing. And it's probably at that point, the halfway point, you need to dig in. But that's always sort of been, last 10 years, it's been for free for me. I'm training all winter in Thailand and it's 30 to 40 degrees. And then I'm training all summer in Spain and it's 25 to 45 degrees. And then now, since I moved to Dubai, it's, this is just another level. It's a dry heat. You feel as if you're running in a sauna. There's definitely some adaptations. It's definitely good for me. I really enjoy training in the heat. It makes me feel good just to look up and see blue skies. But at the same point, you need to make the adaptations. So when I'm doing my easy runs, for example, I've got to be looking at effort. It's nothing about pace, and you're gonna realize that throughout most of your training, if not all of your training, there's gonna be a point when you need to do race-paced efforts. So if you're going for a sub 2:45 marathon or sub 3:30 marathon, whatever it is, there's going to be a point where you need to get your biomechanics used to running for a sustained amount of time at the pace that you're going to be running, and that will be an ever sort of like increasing amount up until race day. So for example, if you're training for the marathon and one of your sessions is 25k, 5k, relatively easy, not necessarily a warm-up, but relatively easy, something like marathon pace plus 20%, and then middle section of 15k at marathon pace, or even marathon pace plus 10%, marathon pace minus 10%, so 10% faster than marathon pace, and then 5%, and then 5k at the end, sort of holding on. So that's a really nice session and a really good session to know that first of all you can run 25k, but also you've got a really big portion there, nearly 10 miles, 15k at marathon pace, and that's going to build a lot of confidence for you. I just did a session there in the gym, which was again 8 times 3 minutes, which I'd done 3 days ago, 4 days ago. But then on the back end, I was feeling great. So, and this is a really key point, because there's going to be days when you're not feeling great, and it's when you're not feeling great and you've got a big session on, or a key session, think about big picture always. Yeah, so if your training plan is you get fit and you've got 12 weeks of training and the last 10 to 14 days of that is taper, then that's 10 weeks of dedicated training, which means 10 interval sessions, 10 long runs. Don't overcomplicate it. So if you're on one of those 20 sessions, if you're not feeling, you wake up, you've only had 5 hours sleep, if you had a load of work on the day before, if you've got a load of work on that day, don't be frightened of pushing that key session back a day. Alter your workouts slightly so that you're giving yourself at least 3 days in between key sessions, but change that. The 7 days in the week, Wednesdays interval session for me, Sundays long run. There's no reason for me to mess around with that schedule during a key thing. I'm flying Sunday, so I've just altered my sessions this week in order to do 2 interval sessions instead of a long run. So that was 8 times 3 minutes, 60 seconds in between, then 60-second rest, and 3 kilometers at a lesser gradient. It's all hill reps. kilograms, 3 kilometers at a lesser gradient, but the gradient that I'm going to be doing for the vast majority of the race at race pace. So hard session to get them up there into zone 4, and then in those 3-minute intervals, and then I'm able to put on 3 kilometers in the end. I can't speak, I've worked that hard, at the end at race pace, and that's like a really good session for me to then build on. So where do I go from here? And this is the key point about progressions. It's like you can put something together quite comfortably for yourself. Like for me, it's important that I start easy, and this race is specifically 50 kilometers uphill. First 10k is quite easy. It's like 2, 3, 4%. Then it's 28k of average of 7%, which is a heavy gradient for anybody in the UK. There's not many places you can run for more than 3 kilometers at 7% and still be, there's not many roads that will go that way, and not many kind of even places where you can get that gradient. And then for the last 12k of the race, that's when the race really starts, and that's going to be minimum 10%, and it's ridiculous in some parts. It's like 25-30%, so no joke. So the progressions for me are, start with a decent gradient, something like 4 or 5%, gradually move that up and keep the pace really low. So I'm basically building muscles and strength and letting the tendons, ligaments know around those key muscles, glutes, hamstrings, calves, and even the quads. The quads are picking your leg up a lot, a lot more. They're doing a lot more than what you think you are going uphill. I'm letting all the muscles, ligaments, the tendons know that they're going to be doing some uphill work, gradually building that at a slow pace. Watch the heart rate, take care of that. Get fit so it's no longer a struggle. Often working like a higher gradient than the actual race itself, and then gradually adding it. So starting with like 10 times 1 minute, then 12 times 1 minute, then 15 times 1 minute, then maybe 10 times 2 minutes, then 8 times 3 minutes, then 8 times 3 minutes with 3 kilometers on the end, a lesser gradient, so race pace gradient. And then from here, I can move on and do something like 5 times 7 minutes. Just if you look at the overall volume, so today 8 times 3 minutes, 24 minutes, plus 3 kilometers. If I add that together, it's about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. So if I look at that overall volume and then build on that and work on building on that, so that's the hard work. And then in between I'm resting and I'm looking at my heart rate in between reps. What's it going from? Like 165 to 170 beats. How quickly can I get it down to manageable under 130, which is a great point to start the next rep. I'm doing that within 60 seconds. So throughout the training program, it's really important for me to keep monitoring that heart rate, to keep monitoring when how much it's coming down, and therefore it's going to tell me how fit I'm getting. So yeah, really important. Progression's super important in your interval training.